Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
Hello. Thanks so much for being here today, everyone. Hey, Debbie, how's it going? Thanks for being on camera and being here. This is kind of the kickstart of something that we're doing, that we're calling Keeping It Real Estate with me, Sara Delansig. And what I want to do with this, let's rewind a minute. So some of you already know me, but some of you don't. And if you're listening to this online, the reason, I normally will do a lot of slides and teach stuff on here, but I want to do this more for the people that can't see it, if you're listening in the car and things like that. And I'm really, really passionate about helping agents overcome their fears, and any of the obstacles that are blocking them from being able to really succeed and find, what they're passionate about in this industry. And this industry is a little wonky. It's a little funky. For those of you that are getting into it, there's a lot of stuff out there, okay? A lot of stuff that might contradict other things, which we're going to get into a little later. But I'm doing this more off the cuff style this time. It can be interactive. Sometimes I might have guest interviews, things like that. But one of the things that I really wanted to focus on, because I saw that it was a recurring theme of agents' mindset just being totally off from where it should be. And then a lot of the messages that we're hearing, I go to a lot of real estate events, not as much as some people, but we hear really conflicting things. And I want to get into some of that and dive into it. I want to get into the news of what's happening. So kind of like a radio segment is kind of what I'm thinking. We'll dive into topics. We'll talk about them. If you guys have questions, if you just want to listen, that's totally fine, but it might be a little shorter if that's the case. So my background is that I am a fellow realtor, and I didn't really enjoy selling real estate, but been in the industry for a long time. Sold real estate coaching for several years before I got my license, and then eventually decided to start my own boutique ISA company. We're really, really small, but we see all the struggles that agents see with calling leads, warm internet leads, old stale leads, any kind of leads you can think of. Pretty much, we've done it, we've tried it, and I have a very strong opinion on it. So let's preface that with sometimes I might need a disclaimer. This is my opinion, not necessarily the opinion of others. And this might be a little controversial because I definitely have a strong opinion that does not align with some of the major, voices that are on stage and stuff like that. So just putting that out there. Feel free to disagree with me. I totally understand. So that's that. So one of the things that I really want to do is help agents get in the right headspace, not just for real estate, but just overall. Our thoughts really do impact a lot of things. And so I was thinking, for a long time, I've hosted Agent Power Huddle, and I was thinking, I should do this more consistently and have people show up and do some affirmations, visualizations, things like that. And we'll see if we can do some of that. We're definitely going to do some affirmations, but some of the visualization stuff might need to be more like a homework thing. But I definitely think this will help, not just in real estate, but in day-to-day life, because the way that we view things can really impact the success that we're having, and it can come through in our energy, in our voice, and in all the things and all the ways that we communicate with the world, in our business and in our life. Okay. So with that being said, I would like to start off with some affirmations that we try to say every day, my team and myself. Sometimes we just jump right in because you know how real estate is. Sometimes it's just busy, crazy stuff. So I'm going to read these off. And if you are watching it, this is going to be one of the times I share my screen. But if you all want these affirmations, feel free to join my Facebook group or follow me. Send me a message. Kelsey, am I sharing the affirmations screen? Yeah, okay, good. I don't know why the little green thing that used to be on Zoom doesn't show. I have 3. Thank you. Yes, check it out, Debbie. I love it. You got the big one. She's got the long one. And now I have a shorter version, and it's a little bit more specific. I changed it just a little bit. But either way, just so you know, you could go and chat GPT and just ask, hey, give me some good affirmations for real estate, and it'll give you a whole list. So I'm going to say these, and I hope that you also say them. You don't have to say them out loud or come off mute or anything like that, but I want you to feel this and resonate with it. And the more that you do this, the more it'll become true. So my affirmations are: I am successful regardless of what is happening in the current market. Each call is an opportunity to build a positive connection and provide value. I am well prepared and knowledgeable about my market and the services I offer. I am persistent and resilient. I will keep going despite any challenges. I focus on solutions and benefits, not just making a sale. Every call brings me one step closer to achieving my goals. I am a great communicator and can convey my message effectively. My enthusiasm is contagious and it resonates with the people I'm talking to. I know that success comes from consistent effort. This last one is huge. There's not a single champion that is going to tell you that consistency is not key, right? Consistency is absolutely, positively necessary, period, over, right? Okay, let's see. So now that we've done that, some of the other things, and I'm not sure how this will go. We're just kind of testing the waters right now to see how this works. But one of my ideas to Autumn a couple months ago was that I wanted to start a visualization where agents can come and actually visualize having closings, right? Having great conversations, visualize their success and feel it and see what happens if you were to do that consistently day after day. And obviously I'm not on here every single day. So I am here every other Wednesday for now. We could go anywhere from 15 minutes to 30, sometimes 40. Last week we went over. But starting now, it'll be every other Wednesday right here, right where you're at. So we're keeping it real estate. All right. One of the things that I want to talk about is now calling, right? So my team and myself, we make lots of calls. I've been making over 100 calls pretty much on average for almost 5-6 years now. And not just to buyers and sellers. That goes back to when I was calling real estate and selling real estate coaching. But I feel even though I have no desire to do the job of a real estate agent, even though I am one, I feel I see a lot of the same challenges, not all of the same challenges, but a lot of the same challenges. And I did, I did do listing appointments and got buyers under contract and things like that. So I do understand showing houses, but that's not the problem that most real estate agents have. The problem that most real estate agents have is they don't know where to find alternate sources of business, right? Without paying for it or without doing things that they don't necessarily want to do. And if you were to take a look at your last, 12 months of closings, do you know where they all came from? Do you know which, let's just say you had 12 closings last year, one a month or something like that. Do you know, were they all sphere of influence? Did they all come from organic, growth, people reaching out to you through social media? Did they come from Facebook ads that you were running? Did they come from Zillow leads that you paid for? So every real estate agent should have multiple streams of leads, right? Not just, you don't want to just stick to one, because if that one goes out, now your business goes bye-bye, right? So if all you're doing is Facebook ads and then suddenly somebody hacks your account, you don't have it set up right, now your Facebook might be out of commission for a bit, and that might be a problem. Of course, Facebook leads close 8 months later, but still, you see my point, right? So what we're trying to do here is help agents see all the different stuff. Yes, referrals. Like most agents will say sphere of influence and referral is their like main lead gen source. And that's a great one because it's, it's obviously the easiest. There's not a lot of friction there. There's not a lot of stuff that you have to get through. But the more friction that you have, the stronger agent you become. And the more you can handle the adversity that comes with talking to Facebook leads and talking to Zillow leads and all the other things. And I'm not saying you have to pay for any of that stuff. First of all, just so you know, I'm not recommending any of those things, but I do recommend that you have multiple streams of leads so that you are not, a one-trick pony or whatever that saying is. Okay. All right. Now, the next topic I was going to talk about is news. All right. In the news lately, I don't know if you guys have heard, but AI is like really big, right? I'm sure all of you know. AI is becoming a thing. I just mentioned ChatGPT and how you can use it and things like that. But I want to talk about AIs making phone calls. Now, I don't know if you all have heard about this, and I'm not going to stay on this long because actually it's not staying long because there was a memo that came out with my brokerage that says there's an FCC update for AI voice calls and compliance. And what happened is like basically they had these AI calling leads. And real estate is funny because it's like one of the only sales jobs that you are actually like, you don't just purchase the product and go home. Like people can't just buy the house in one day and leave, right? Like there's a process over time. Like when you go buy a car, right? You go to the lot, maybe you take it for a drive, you sit there for 6 hours and do the paperwork, and you walk out with it. But not the case with a home, especially if you're building a home or anything like that. So real estate is in a different category of sales. And people have turned to AI, agents have turned to AI because they got really busy, and because it's, it works for you 24/7, and it can be very helpful. It can be cheap. It can do a lot of things, right? But AI phone calls is something I'm vehemently against. It's not authentic. I don't care, how real it sounds. I just feel like it's kind of, it's scamming to me. And I guess that the FCC agrees, and they came out with this news that AI generated voice calls are now classified as artificial, which is, it's literally in the name. So, but with that being said, now agents need to get prior written consent before they can employ any of these AI calls. Now, this might be old news to some of you. This might be new news, or you're like, I don't even care because I would never do that, which that's probably good, because if you did start a business with AI phone calls, well, now you might be out of luck. Or there might be other scams out there to get other things. Like, I just feel like it kind of puts a damper on the industry if we were using this. So I'm kind of glad to hear this, that they're not allowing these AIs to have these phone calls and conversations with your prospects, right? Now, that being said, like, I don't know what it is, but Alexa can't even figure when I ask her to play a song, she can't even get it right. So there's that. Okay. So any questions about any of that, feel free to let me know. But I just want to try to bring up something that's going on in the industry to keep you guys in the loop, because sometimes we have our head down and we're grinding and we don't see all the other things that are going on. So I just really want to make this a time to catch up about the important stuff. Okay. So one of the things that I did to research how I was going to do this podcast was I looked up, I started reading books or looking up, somebody recommended a book to me and I typed it into YouTube and they have these little videos. There's actually a really good channel. It's called Successful by Design. And he has little animations for the books that he talks about. And I looked one up because actually Jesse, when we were talking about me doing this podcast, Jesse Zagorski was like, Sara, you should read this book. Great, good to great. So I pulled that up and then I went down a rabbit hole of watching a whole bunch of them and got some ideas for the show, which is a really, really interesting book. So you should check it out. But one of the things that I ran into just this morning while I was getting ready, I was listening to the channel and I pulled up the book Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but persuasion. So I listened to the whole little, 10-minute like summary of it with the little graphics and everything, which is really cute. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I've seen some of this. And he talks about anchoring a price. And I'm like, oh, I've seen people do that. I know where they got it now, right? Like, oh. And then right after that, it auto-played into the next video. And it happened to be Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of this book. It's a FBI guy that was a negotiator for like people's lives. And he like figured out that this can work in a lot of situations. And so I listened to that, and he kind of, and it went into an interview with him too. And he kind of contradicted the whole anchoring the price thing. And this is my point. There are so many different opinions about follow-up, about how to say things, about how to approach it, how often to call, what to say when you call, questions to ask, whether to ask if it's the right person. So like if I were to call Debbie here and be like, hey, is this Debbie? I do that. I didn't do that when I sold real estate coaching because it was different. That way I would be like, hi, Debbie, this is Sara, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm doing different things. Like selling real estate coaching, like calling a real estate agent, you pretty much know it's definitely the real estate agent because their face is plastered all over online. You can get their phone number, blah, 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 right? So I can automatically assume that it's Debbie when I call Debbie if I'm calling a real estate agent. That's the way I did it. Now, when I'm calling like somebody that was just scrolling, during the Super Bowl, they had a few drinks and they're like scrolling and they're like, heck yeah, I want to see what my home's worth. And then I called them. I want to make sure I have the right person before I start spouting off some details about their home or like anything like that, right? So I ask who it is. Now, there are millions of other things out there that are going to tell you a different way to do it. And that's where you have to kind of go into yourself and figure out what works for you. Okay. This is important. What is working, don't change. Even if other people are telling you that you should. I mean, if it is working for you, you are getting closes, you're seeing results. And one thing I will say though, is sometimes something will work, but it'll leave a bad taste in the mouth of the person, right? So in this interview that popped up with Chris Voss, after I watched a little blurby on it, you know how YouTube like recommends another video. He was getting interviewed by a guy named Lewis. Let me see if I can find it. I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to try to tell you guys where it was so that I can tell you how to find it. It was Lewis Howes. I will type this in the chat. And it was a really interesting interview. It's very long, an hour and 34 minutes. And he said some really interesting stuff. In a video. But, and he immediately went into like why you should not anchor, because when you anchor, you're driving business away. So you should not anchor a price, right? So he had a different point of view than I had just previously heard, and it can get really confusing and it can stop you in your tracks. And then all of a sudden you're like, what do I do here? What am I like? Which way do I go? Who's right? What am I supposed to do? That's why it's important for you to test things out, practice things, and figure out what works for you. Now, when it stops working, and this is why I'm very passionate. When something stops working, it needs to stop. You need to stop doing it. Okay. For 20-something years, we've been told how to follow up with, our prospective buyers and sellers by people that did it at a very high level 20-something years ago. Those things don't necessarily work today. And I wasn't going to go here, but I'm going to go here just because I want to keep it real. And that's what this is called, right? So I have people ask me all the time to call FSBOs, expires, and all this other stuff. And I almost always tell them no. The only time I've said yes, and what I'm having a lot of success with right now, is calling expired luxury listings, but not just calling them, okay? I don't call them just to be like, hey, your listing expired. Do you want to sell? I don't do any of that. And before you're like, oh, you need to practice and there's other ways to do it. Okay, like, don't worry. I've done a lot of research on this. But the way to do it now, and I could be wrong. So if anybody wants to prove me wrong, I'm down. Like, let's chat. But the way that I've seen this done now and the way that it works and what we're seeing success with is sending a package. so that I can then call and say, hey, we FedExed you a package to your home on blah, blah, blah street. Did you receive that? What'd you think of it? And then a conversation can be had, right? And so that is, and I'm not blowing them up. I call them like, once a month, right? But come down 3 months later and we're seeing conversion from this. But it's because they're sending something to this person. It has a picture of their home. It's specific and it makes them feel special. Okay. So that's one of the main things. Empathy, authenticity, and making people feel special. They want to talk about themselves. They want to feel special. Everybody does. So putting a picture of their house, which they are emotionally attached to, drives up the emotion, and then they feel, like they've connected. So I'm not into manipulating anyone into doing anything, but if you can help build a connection, I'm cool with that, right? Like, as long as you're being authentic and real. So expired listings, the normal way, where you go get a whole bunch of phone numbers and names and you pull a list and you just start calling random numbers. Zan, that is a great question. And I'm going to send you to Wendy Goss. She has, let me type it in the chat. She has an incredible Facebook group, and I think she might have done a video on it. I think her Tech Tuesdays is the name of her. Yeah. Join her Facebook group because she should have it in there. And she's awesome. So that is, and it's probably $100 per phone number that she's sending these packages out, but we're talking about luxury listings. So those are the things that I'm talking about. So I put out a post that was like, hey, people want me to call expires. Is anybody actually closing expired listings right now? And I got a lot of people say they were, and like say that they did expireds. And I said, okay, how many have you closed in the last month? None. Okay, how about 6 months? None. I had one person who had one, and they said it was more of like a fluke than anything. It was just kind of like fell in their lap, kind of like, it was just random. So I know that there are people out there, even Jesse told me this when I was telling him this. Okay. I know that there are people out there that are having success with it. I want to know what they're doing. But I will tell you this. I've taken the advice, paid for advice from old stuff, and the way that they did it in 2010 is not working today. Everything is different. Like now, I don't know if you guys got the iPhone update, but you can literally watch the text when you send them to voicemail. You can send them to voicemail, and then you can watch what they're saying. It'll show up on text on your screen as they're leaving the voicemail. So people are even better at ignoring the things that they don't want to pay attention to. Send it to voicemail, ignore it, block it. There's all different ways, right? There's all different things that we can do. And the point is to help people to understand where you're coming from, help people to see that you're providing value and that you're a resource for education, for, any of the things that, like for finding places, referrals, like, okay, you need a contractor, you need boxes. Like, real estate agents know so much about a lot of things because you have to. You have to know a good cleaning person. You have to know a good stager. You have to know like a lot, or you have to do it yourself, right? So people want that information. Like, I don't know if you guys are a part of any local Facebook groups, but a lot of times people are like, hey, who's the best contractor? Refer me to a good cleaner. Things like that. Not in real estate groups. I'm just talking about like just in your local city group. So my point in all this tangent that I'm going down, sorry, is that there are different ways to do things. And so if something is no longer working, we need to stop pretending like it is. And a lot of people freaked out when interest rates went up and buyers were not as inclined to buy, or sellers were not as inclined to sell, and things like that. And a lot of people just didn't know what to do. So they fell back and they talked to a coach or something like that, or they looked something up and they got some advice that maybe isn't the best advice. That's my point. And on one of these calls, maybe in 2 weeks, I want to talk about how to pick a real estate coach, which I know a lot about too, because some of y'all are spending some money on people that have not closed deals, and they don't even know what they're talking about. Like, I've seen people leave this business because they couldn't close a deal and become a coach. And I'm not going to mention names or anything like that. There are some coaches that don't sell any. Look at Tom Ferry. He's never sold a house in his life. He's the #1 real estate coach in the world. So some people have that either way. I technically haven't sold a home. So not in my name, it was a referral. So, but I have a lot of knowledge in the industry from all of the other things like I do. And I know that I could do it if I wanted to, but weekends and nights are not my thing. So we're not going there. Okay. So to sum that all up, make sure that you are figuring out who you are. Make sure that you have a positive mindset. Do the affirmations and trust yourself to be a resource because you are one, and people will resonate with you differently than they resonate with someone else. I was just talking to a potential client yesterday. She's in the same area as another person that they're in the same exact market. And I was like, hey, you guys are different, like your videos are going to be different than his. So, don't let that stop you. Right. And there were a lot of similarities. It was really funny, but people are going to resonate with a woman differently than they resonate with a man. That's, a lot of women are real estate agents. We don't see a lot of women on stage. Sorry, I went there too. I'm really keeping it real estate, but it's the truth. And women make up most of real estate as realtors. It's like over 60%. So I'm trying to be a voice, to be heard on these topics. And hopefully y'all will come back and join me in 2 weeks and we'll see what else I have to blow up in this industry. Because that's why I had the whole preface this with these are my opinions, not necessarily opinions of wherever you're listening to this on, but I have strong opinions and I can be proven wrong. And I have. Like Wendy, I didn't want to call her expired listings, but I did. And she proved me wrong. So bring it, John Chaplack, if you want to have a call off, I'm happy to challenge you to my way versus your way. Totally happy to do that. Just saying. Hit me up. Okay. Anybody have questions? We have a couple more minutes. I think we're good. We're good? All right, cool. All right. Well, then it was so nice for you guys to be here today. Thank you so much. And then I hope, you'll join me next time and we'll figure out some more things that we can blow up in the industry. Go crush it. Bye.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.